This is The Sports Life.
Owen Lawson punts it away to Weegan. He catches it on the run, 25-30, scoots away, breaks a tackle, breaks another tackle, heads to the far side of the field, spun down from behind at the 40-yard line. You're going to see that all season long. Amazing.
Hand in a shotgun, receives the football, takes a handoff, looks to throw. Sand will pump that one deep down to the right side, left sideline, Tate with it, taken down in the end zone for a touchdown, Carnell Tate.
And welcome into the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. The tones of Gary Dolphin. An Iowa highlight on opening day, and, of course, Paul Keels calling a big play as Ohio State knocks off then number one ranked Texas. Well, we're into the football season. And on our show today, we're going to visit with Bill Bender, the Sporting News, to get his observations. How good is the Big Ten, or how maybe not so good the Big Ten is after week one.
That'll be a lot of fun to get to. And you mentioned, as we catapult now to week 2, there's some pretty big games to look forward to. Michigan goes to Oklahoma. It's the return of Sharon Moore going back to his alma mater there at Oklahoma. And then there's also the Cy-Hawk rivalry taking place this weekend. It's Iowa State. And besides just all the pageantry that goes into that rivalry, Iowa head coach Kirk Ferentz might make history in the Big Ten. We're going to be joined by Gary Dolphin later on to talk about that.
Well, sounds of the week. What do we got, Dalton?
Well, if we take a look first, we're going to head to Champaign, Illinois, because, look, this Illini squad certainly has a lot of people talking before the season got kicked off, but the Illinois fans are certainly excited themselves. And the Illinois students showed up in a big way in week 1. 11,000 students on hand to watch the Illini play. Here's what head coach Brett Bielema had to say afterwards.
Well, Josh actually said something, about 2 weeks prior. I knew that, we had done some things in ticket sales for USC and Ohio State and all that stuff. And he's like, hey, we may get close to 11,000 students here, right, for a game. And I'm just like I knew that was a big number. Like, even when I was at my other places, like, that would be a really big student number, right? And they really do bring the energy, right? So I think, and the one thing that always has meant a lot to me, especially as a head coach, is you could see the way our players identify with the students. When there was a big play on Saturday, no matter which way it was going, our players always faced the student section, right, and engage them. And, I mean, it sounds silly, right, but they have commonalities with them, right? They see them at classes, right, hopefully at classes. They see them in everyday life, right? They knew that they had a long weekend, that they didn't have class today, right? Like, there's a bonding and a connection, and ultimately, those students really become alumni, and those alumni become your future season ticket holders, right? And the places that I've been, that Josh, brought me here, the Iowas, the Kansas States, the Wisconsin, you had a really proud fan student base, right, that grows into alumni, and that's how you cultivate and build something for a long time. And I would even argue that, like, our crowd kind of plays off the students as well, right, when they're engaged and they're in it. So, yeah, it's super excited for not just our football program, but this university. I know we have more applications than any time in the University of Illinois history, and I don't think that happened by chance. Obviously, a new chancellor, a new way of doing things in the administration level, but it's just a really fun time to be here at Illinois on many different levels, and hopefully we can be a small part of it, because I think it does make a difference.
Brett Bielema, the head coach of the Fighting Illini football team, he's a big part of it. He's not a small part of it. We know what good football can do for a campus. I loved his little joke about classes.
Hopefully they're seeing the students there.
That was pretty good. But he lays it out pretty nicely. But Illinois could have a special year. They just could.
I think you're absolutely right. And honestly, ever since Brett Bielema got to Champaign, the Illini have really been on the uptick. This could be a very special season indeed. If we take a look elsewhere in the Big Ten Conference, the Nebraska Huskers get ready for their second game. This time it's against Akron, but also at home. They open week 1 at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. This time they get to play on their campus, and that idea has head coach Matt Rule pretty excited.
I can't wait. I think I don't know if there's anything better that I've been a part of in my life than a night game at Memorial Stadium. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, Thursday night was awesome. I loved it. Like, it was, Andy Reid shakes all of our players' hands, talks to the team, right? Like, Patrick Mahomes is on the sidelines. Like, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. Just the who's who. Our fans showed up. They were so loud. So it was amazing. I just can't thank them enough. I mean, I'd love to go back there, to be quite honest, and play another game there at some point. But I love Memorial Stadium, and I love being at home. And, even though it felt like a home game, there's still for a lot of our guys, first time checking into a hotel, getting on the bus here. Like, there's a lot of different things that go into traveling, right? I say this not as just as something I always have to deal with. Like, we are still a really young team, and there's a lot of new guys. It's like, hey guys, this is what you do at the movies. This is what you do here. Like, so it was good to get that out of the way. But to be back at home, I think is going to be amazing, and I can't wait for the light show. We're doing the light show. I can't wait for the light show. I can't. We better do the first year. I was like, stop looking at the light show. And the second year, I was like, just look at the light show. That's amazing. So, yeah, I just can't wait. So, my wife is a Lincoln business owner, loves the night games because she has all day for people to go in and get their hair done. And so I know it's probably good for the local economy because people are in town all day and spend the night. But I just can't wait to be at home. I can't wait to play in front of our students. You go down to Kansas City. I know a lot of fans went down. I don't know how many students went down. Maybe they did. Maybe I don't know. But I think playing in front of our students is really important because they are the next season ticket holders and they are the next fans. And so we have to grow the program. And when I say grow the program, not for when I'm here, for way after I'm gone, by playing well at home in front of your students, and they have great memories there. They meet their wife there. They propose at. All these different things that happen. And so I'm excited for it, and I'm excited to play again too. The game's the most important part to me.
Matt Rule, the head coach of Nebraska, echoed exactly what Brett Bielema said about the students. Well, first show in September, Dalton, and already a Taylor Swift mention.
We didn't make it too far into the season with that.
We did not. Well, in terms of the show coming up, we're going to break down this big game for Michigan. It's a real game, it's on the road, and it's against Oklahoma. Back with more in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate, painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor? Yes, I am.
Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, Michigan is off to a fast start. They won their home game, and now they're off for a big game. They're going to go to Oklahoma. 14th-ranked Wolverines going to take on the 18th-ranked Sooners. It's a night game. Dalton's the first time they've ever opened up with 2 back-to-back night games.
Well, how about that?
What does that mean? Nothing.
It means our next guest doesn't get a lot of sleep at
night. That's right. So welcome in Brian Boesch, a member of the Michigan radio broadcast team. And Brian, welcome into the show. And I guess everybody is curious. This is a real opponent, Oklahoma, as opposed to New Mexico. So what do you think about this Michigan team?
Well, guys, thanks for having me as always. And on the night game standpoint, not a lot of sleep, but Michigan's won 13 straight night games. So I think fans will begrudgingly take another one here because this will be one of the toughest. This matchup is why we follow college football. It's why we follow college sports. And I think what makes this one unique, obviously great rivalries with a ton of tradition and all that, like Michigan is fortunate to have with the likes of Michigan State and Ohio State. Those games resonate. But this one's special and unique because it's the only time that these two teams have ever faced off on a campus, and they'll make the return trip with the Sooners next year to Ann Arbor. So seeing this type of game in week 2, it gives you the goosebumps that you want. And I think, to answer your question about the team, I think both teams don't really know. I was talking with their play-by-play voice, Toby Rowland, earlier in the week, and I said the word vanilla, asking about their game plan in week 1, and he said he's heard that word about 100 times. He's sick of it. And it's no disrespect to New Mexico or Illinois State, the 2 opponents for these teams last week, but you want to see Michigan, Oklahoma, Big Ten, SEC, 2 top 25 teams, and I think both fan bases will learn a lot, and the nation will learn a lot about both these teams by Saturday night.
Well, Brian, one of the big things, too, that gives people goosebumps, or in this case specifically, Sharon Moore is going back home. He was an Oklahoma Sooner as a player. Of course, now he leads the Michigan Wolverines as the head coach. Have we heard any personal, sentimental stories from Sharon Moore and what this opportunity is going to be like?
No, he's really downplayed it. I think the one thing he has remained steadfast on is showing the respect for a program that meant a lot to him. He won a couple of Big 12 championships there after transferring in from community college his first 2 years. So Brent Venables was the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma when Coach Moore played as an offensive lineman. Obviously, Bob Stoops is still a figure, is still very much a relevant person in that Oklahoma program, even if he's not the head coach. Even Kevin Wilson, who's an analyst on the offensive side, he was the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma back when Sharon was in the uniform in that crimson and cream for Oklahoma. So he has downplayed it. I'm sure there will be a few moments for him on Saturday when he's doing his regular pregame routine that might be a little irregular for him. But he's when asked about restaurant recommendations, he said, I'm going to be eating at the hotel. He's trying to downplay it as best as he can, and the team has as well, of just saying, hey, we want to beat everybody. So we want to win this game because it's the next game, and we'll see how the post game. I think we might get a little bit of the emotion from Sharon post game if we get it at all.
Well, here's one nobody's asked you yet. You ready? An original question. Bryce Underwood, how'd he look?
Well, the uniform fit, the helmet worked out well. Maize and blue looks good on him. I mean, the arm talent is what stands out to start. That and just his size, right? He is a different dude for 18 years old. So, and that's what you expect from the number 1 recruit in the country, whether it's a quarterback or another position. Those types of players are oftentimes built different. They've got the skill set. And it was a very positive first game. But to the point I think we've all made at some point or another in this interview or over the last few days, this is a different deal. going to Oklahoma, playing under the lights in Norman, that is different than a home game. One that meant a lot to him. He grew up around here. He went to high school 20 minutes away from Ann Arbor. So, for him, it was special. That game last week will always have a special place in his heart. But this week will be the one we really get to see what it is like, because Brent Venables is one of the best defensive minds in the world, football-wise. He is outstanding at what he does. There's still the jury's still out on him as a head coach, but he's taken over defensive play calls, and I'm sure he's been thinking about this game plan for Michigan for a while since he announced that early in the offseason, because let's face it, he's on a pretty warm seat right now, and it gets hot if a former Oklahoma player leads a Michigan team into his house and gets a victory on Saturday.
It is a really interesting frame when you put it around it like that, and what kind of surrounds this matchup. Oh, Brian, you mentioned in the opener we didn't maybe learn everything we could about both of these two squads, but from what we do know today, what can we expect? Who has advantages where in this matchup between Michigan and Oklahoma?
Yeah, I certainly think that the quarterback battle is interesting. John Mateer has the advantage in age, but Bryce Underwood probably has a little more upside. I'll be curious early on to see how both of those young men handle the situation. I think Michigan should feel a lot better about its ground game and its offensive running attack than Oklahoma. That they only averaged a little bit more than 3 yards a carry last week. Defensively, Michigan showed a lot. In that first game, they played 30-plus players against New Mexico. The Sooners, they're always going to be very solid defensively against with Brent Venables. But to me, I think the really fascinating thing will be how does Michigan's linebacker group, a deep one, account for the first half suspension for Jayshon Barham, who was all over the place on Saturday against New Mexico. Will that potentially open up some opportunities for Oklahoma in the first half? And how does it change with that 22-minute gap between the end of the first half and the start of the second half? So, if I had to handicap maybe the matchups that are most noteworthy to me, I think it's probably how each line factors in Michigan's offensive line against Oklahoma's defensive line. And then the flip side, too, I feel like Michigan probably feels pretty confident it can do some good work in the front seven because Oklahoma's still shuffling around a few guys in their on their offensive line. They had two presumed starters who were out in week one, probably just to be, absolutely safe that they're ready to roll. Really good freshman in Michael Fasusi, who's coming back from all accounts, and then a Western Carolina transfer in Derek Simmons. So, are they more talented than what they showed last week? Yes. But they'll also be breaking in a new look offensive line and a first-time collegiate starter against one of the best front sevens in the game. So to me, Michigan's got to feel pretty good about that matchup.
Well, I hope you guys have a great broadcast, Brian, and talk to you soon.
I will, Dalton. Appreciate you guys.
There you go. Brian Boesch talking about the game coming up. Michigan's going to Oklahoma. First time these guys have met since 1975. And Dalton, one of the cool things about this game and that Texas-Ohio State game, they're home and homes.
Mm-hmm.
You miss those, right? Finally, some great games on campus, not at neutral sites.
And if that can infect its way into basketball, that's what I'd really like to see as well.
So when we come back with more of the Sports Life, a visit with Bill Bender from the Sporting News, and we're going to get Bill's take on what he thinks the Big Ten looks like after 1 week. But first, this time out.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, Em, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, officially, week one of the Big Ten is in the books. Not too bad for the conference. 16 wins, a couple of setbacks. On the losing side, Northwestern lost and UCLA lost. So, how good is the Big Ten? Well, we know about the Ohio State-Texas game, so it's kind of all over the place. And help us sort this out, as always, we go to the guy that knows maybe a little more than Dalton and I on these sort of things, is Bill Benner of the Sporting News. And, Bill, thanks for joining us as we get this 2025 season going. And what was your overall take once everybody had one game in the book?
That the Big Ten, the top three is the top three, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. And we didn't learn too much about Penn State and Oregon. I think we learned that Ohio State with the Matt Patricia defense. And I've always maintained, Will, that Ohio State should have an NFL coordinator because you have 4- and 5-star kids capable of running that scheme. When you have the best players, you should run the best defenses. And Patricia did a fantastic job. The atmosphere for that game was incredible. They now all the takes are about Arch Manning. I have a couple thoughts on that too, but we don't have to go there. And, they're going to be really tough to beat with that defense. With the linebackers, the secondary, Julian Sayin didn't have to do too much. I mean, imagine telling you Ohio State had like 203 total yards and they won.
Well, I wouldn't believe it, by the way. But they did, right? Here's a game I want and a team I want to run by you that surprised me a little bit. Indiana won, but they didn't beat Old Dominion by much, 27-14. I thought they may roll them a little bit. Could Indiana be softer than we think?
Well, it's a sequel, and I thought they would run that score up too. I do like some of the pieces they have on that defense. D'Angelo Pons is one of the best defensive backs in the country. Had an interception, had a couple pass breakups. They got Aiden Fisher. The defense is still really good. The offensive might take some time. I think Curtis Rourke was pretty special in that offense last year. And bring in Fernando Mendoza, the running game's a little bit different. The hard part, and kind of what I was telling you, The top three, I know who they are right now. The hard part is figuring out who's tier 2 in the Big Ten. Is it Illinois, Indiana, Michigan? Is it somebody else like USC that scored a ton of points? I think that Indiana-Illinois game here in a couple weeks is going to tell the truth.
Well, let's move on to Illinois then, because the Illini had an impressive opening win over the Leathernecks, 52-3. I mean, simply just dominating in this one. But is this what we're going to be seeing all year from Luke Altmaier and the Illini? Are they really fit to the billing that we've given them before the season?
Well, what I said about Pons, Gabe Jacques is one of the best defensive linemen in the conference. There's 2 sacks in his first game. We're going to learn about them this weekend. One of the best, this weekend's light, like in terms of like ranked games, not quite what we had this weekend, but Darian Mensah had 389 passing yards for the Blue Devils last week, the Tulane transfer that got like a huge NIL deal. And here's Illinois coming down there trying to win that game. That's one I have circled. Like, pay attention to it at noon. It's going to be a really fun test for this Illinois team that we all kind of think is that 4th best team in the Big Ten. We'll see. We're going to find out.
Well, Bill, this may be the only time I mention Purdue as we speak about Big Ten football, but I have to admit I was a little surprised that they beat Ball State, but 31-0. Have they somehow managed to take 82 new players and make a team out of it?
Well, transfer rule, that's weird. For every team like Purdue and West Virginia that had some success with it last weekend, you'll have some teams that struggle. See copy-paste greatest coach of NFL time Monday night. The Tar Heels had their problems, right? So, but yeah, Barry Odom's a good coach. And they have a little bit of a different edge with him, and we'll see how much success they can have. I know last year part of it was, go back and look at the schools. They played one of the most ridiculous schedules ever last year. Notre Dame, Penn State, Ohio State. They caught all of them. Oregon on a Friday night. So I'm interested to see how they do with a little bit easier schedule.
So much of the talk before this season for Ann Arbor was about the freshman talented quarterback Bryce Underwood. He leads the Wolverines to a 34-17 win over New Mexico in the opener. What did you see from Bryce Underwood? Does it fit all the hype that we had before this one?
He has an arm. His arm talent's really good. There'll be ups and downs though. And I'll say this. I saw out of Dylan Raiola last year as a true freshman. I think Bryce Underwood's a little bit ahead of that. And that's one thing I wanted to judge because it's not going to be perfect. It's probably not going to be perfect this weekend at Oklahoma. They play a really good Sooners team with transfer quarterback John Mateer, who some people are comparing to Baker Mayfield. He's pretty good. You're going to like watching him. But you have a strong running game like Justice Haynes doing what he did, and Michigan playing with a little more tempo with Chip Lindsey, the new offensive coordinator. Those things will be put to the test this weekend in a hostile road environment. Oklahoma's really good at home. I thought Michigan's defense was just okay. They're good. They're going to miss Jayshon Barham. That's one thing I will say, and I don't want to go on too long about Michigan on here, but the targeting call on Barham was ridiculous.
Well, I want to get away from the games just for a second. I want to go back to last weekend in Columbus where Lee Corso made his final appearance on ESPN's Game Day. How was that?
Amazing. I mean, so a couple things. We ran a story last week at Sporting News about the 1999 season, which was Lee Corso's perfect season. He went 11-0 on headgear picks. He was in East Lansing that season to watch Michigan State beat Michigan with Nick Saban, and I talked to Bill Burke about that and just the environment around that game, 34-31. And imagine being Bill Burke and being able all these years later to be like, hey, on that day I got Tom Brady. I beat Tom Brady that day. And I would cash that check every single day if I was Bill, by the way. But he did the same thing. Well, he went undefeated last week. He called 3 upsets. He got Florida State. He got LSU. He got Miami. Goes 6-0. And I was telling you on the break, before he did the head pick on the Jumbotron, the press box, all the sports writers, we were all quiet. And I think that speaks to the impact that he's had on the game, the popularity. Guys like me that grew up with it and just loved his enthusiasm for the sport. And we try to live up to that expectation, which is impossible to do.
That's really something special. And I got to tell you, you may not be Bill Burke, but you are Bill Bender, and that means a lot to us here, Bill. I do want to mention, too, you had holstered and you teased a little bit that you had Arch Manning take, so take us to the trough that everybody in mainstream sports is talking about. Was it more about Arch Manning and what Texas couldn't do, or does Ohio State maybe have one of the premier defenses in all of college football?
They do. That's one. Well, I think two things can be true. And you hear that saying all the time. One, Arch had a rough day. He was erratic. He was inaccurate. Fox had a thing I was watching it on Instagram last night. I literally charted all 30 passes. And of those 17 incompletions, he had 4 or 5 underthrows and 3 overthrows. It was a rough day. Now, as Steve Sarkisian said afterward, Patricia was disguising coverages and confusing Sark. So it's hard for me to make a judgment on, hey, yeah, you were confused out there. Well, if Steve Sarkisian was, then I sure would be too. I think we'll see better out of Arch. So the phrase I've been using all week, Dalton, is I think Arch is a victim of our creation. Like, we want him to be good so we can say he's the next Manning like Eli and Peyton. But if you go back and look at Eli and Peyton, and I have an article coming this week, they struggled a little bit early in their college careers too. So he'll have to go through that. Their schedule's soft the next 3 weeks. We probably won't talk about Arch as much until they go to the Swamp on October 4th, where he will have to be better to go beat Florida.
Well, one game I think that is getting virtually not much dialogue, but might be big for Michigan State. They'll be hosting Boston College. As I kind of look at this one, Bill, I'm thinking this is almost a must-win if MSU wants to get back to postseason play. What do you think?
Well, I think this is a good measuring stick game because Boston College and seeing how far along they are with Bill O'Brien versus how far Michigan State is along with Coach Smith. Dylan Lonergan had a really good game for Boston College last week. High volume passer, but he got it done. And one of those Alabama QBs. By the way, no fan base more miserable than Alabama while we sit here today. But I think for the Spartans, if you win that game, you do take a step toward the postseason. I thought the kind of third and bottom, second, third tier of the Big Ten looked rough over the weekend. Northwestern loses. Nebraska really could have lost. Cincinnati got greedy at the end of that game. So for Michigan State and the perception of the program and where they are under Jonathan Smith, it's be a big victory.
Real quick, Bill, how many weeks are we going to have to go into this season before we know if the Big Ten's the best conference or the second best?
Well, so I'm a nerd. I said it on the air. Okay, I'm a nerd. But I track on a spreadsheet like Big Ten versus ACC and Big Ten versus SEC and Big Ten, all the way for all these 4 conferences. The ACC had a rough weekend, but they had the right teams win. Florida State and Miami won. They're fine. I think the Big Ten and the SEC really interesting and really close. As big as here's one thing I can share from last weekend. At the end of the Ohio State-Texas game, I was on the field. Tony Petitti was in front of me, and when Ohio State made that final stop, he's fist pumping and high fiving and giving hugs to his staff members. So if you don't think this SEC Big Ten war isn't very real, be there for that moment. These guys, that was a statement to the SEC. And Saturday, if Michigan can go down to Oklahoma and win, that would be another statement because to me, how many teams do you have that are playoff caliber? USC, we didn't really talk about them. They put 73 points on the board. Makes me wonder if Lincoln Riley's finally got his act together.
Well, we're going to find out. Well, Bill, as always, appreciate it. I know we're going to talk to you soon.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
What a great chat with Bill Bender of the Sporting News as we head to week 2 of the Big Ten season. Just for fun, I'll mention the fact that Ohio State's ranked 1, Penn State 2. The Big Ten has 6 in the top 25, and 2 have received votes, including USC and Nebraska. Well, there's a huge game coming up in the state of Iowa, and we're going to talk about it with the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin, in just a moment.
So, I got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And welcome back from the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, as we continue to look at Week 2 of the Big Ten football season, one of the big games across the country is coming up in Ames, Iowa. It's Iowa State hosting Iowa. It's the 72nd time these two teams have met. It's a rival game. They're playing for the Cy-Hawk Trophy. It is a big deal in the state of Iowa. And for these two programs of national prominence, it's a big deal, period. And joining us to talk about this event is Gary Dolphin, entering his 28th season as the voice of the Hawkeyes. And you haven't aged a day, Gary. You look great.
I've lost a few more hair follicles, Will, and the nose is drooping a little bit more than it used to, but we're still in pretty good shape. Yeah, it's been a fun ride. I mean, I never expected to get 20 years in. I figured I got the job at 45, so I figured if I can hang in there for 15 or 20 years till retirement, but they tell me they want me to stay on for at least a couple more years, so we'll see where it goes.
Well, that's a good thing. So your ball club comes in with a win over University of Albany, 34-7. And the Cyclones have played a couple of games. They went over to Dublin. They won that game, and they've also won their second game. And so they're 2-0 for the season. So what are you thinking about these guys, Gary?
Well, it starts with the quarterbacks. Rocco Beck has been outstanding, seemingly from the day he first got the start. I think he started 20 games now after Brock Purdy left for the NFL, and he's really made an impression in the couple of years he's been at under center. He and Purdy are the only two quarterbacks in the history of Iowa State football that have multiple 3,000-yard passing seasons. So that's a mouthful. And he was against South Dakota last week, and he was really spot on against K-State over in Ireland, the game you mentioned a moment ago. But last week he hit 19 of 20 passes for 278 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, granted, it was against an FCS opponent, but it doesn't matter to me who you're playing when you're that accurate. And it's interesting because they lost both their top receivers from a year ago to the Houston Texans, both in the second round. And now they're feeding those tight ends, Burkle in particular. But those two tight ends for the Cyclones have, I think, 16 or 17 catches and 5 touchdowns between them. So they're going the short route. They want to run the football. They've got a terrific back in Hansen. And for Iowa, again, it starts with the quarterback. Now, Gronowski struggled in his debut. I say struggled. He did throw a touchdown pass and ran for one. But he had about 100 and maybe just shy of 100 yards in total offense. And, of course, Mark's used to numbers way north of that. But he's, a kid that won two championships, national championships at South Dakota State, outstanding program. And he's thrown for 10,000 yards. He scored 133 touchdowns. So there's a reason they brought him in out of the transfer portal. And he fits offensive coordinator Tim Lester's RPO theory, the way he wants to run the offense. They run the Packers offense. Now the Hawks will huddle up more than they will in the NFL, but it's essentially Green Bay's offense. And so they're deep at tailback, the Hawks are. They're deep at might be the deepest wide receiver room they've had in about a decade, Will. So it's, then you throw in the rivalry. I think 8 of the last 10 games, Hawks have won 7 of the last 9, but Iowa State got out of Iowa City with a win a year ago on a 54-yard field goal with time expiring. 8 of the last 10 games have been 1 score or less decisions. And I look for that again Saturday.
You know, Gary, you did a great job in introducing us to the Hawkeyes offensive side. Let's get to know the defensive side a little bit here, too, because I think for a long time now, every opponent in the Big Ten says, we don't want to go against Phil Parker and whatever he has conjured up in that secondary for the Iowa defense. Is it kind of the same? Is it status quo with the Hawkeyes defense?
Yeah, I don't know if it's status quo, but here's a stat for you. In the last 10 seasons, Phil Parker's defenses have given up less than 20 points a game. Every game, on average, less than 20 points a game. And it's unfortunate the Hawks have really struggled at quarterback, but therefore on offense in the last 5 or 6 years, or they probably would have won a lot more games, perhaps qualified for a few more Big Ten championships. But it is what it is. But we know this, Phil Parker's defense never changes. He's a plug-and-play guy. And it's going to be interesting to see how this season plays out. I think they lost a half a dozen starters on defense from a year ago. And they usually don't take a hit like that. But in the changing world of NIL and transfer portal, that's the world we live in. But they up front, they've got tremendous talent. Aaron Graves is back for his senior year. He's an All-American candidate. They have 2 of the better defensive ends in the league, in Max Llewellyn and Ethan Hurkett. Graves, Hurkett, and Llewellyn all had 6.5, 7 sacks apiece a year ago. They brought in 2 transfers, one from Central Michigan and one from South Dakota State to plug that other tackle position. Y.A. Black left for the NFL. Now, linebacker is literally brand new, with the exception of one guy. Of course, it's hard to lose a Jay Higgins and a Nick Jackson. Higgins, a consensus All-American a year ago in the middle. But, it was tough to lose Jack Campbell, too. And nobody knew who Jay Higgins was when Jack Campbell left. So now they've got 2 kids they're looking at by the name of Jaden Harrell and Jaden Montgomery. Montgomery's a legacy kid. His dad played at Iowa and played in the pros. So they've got some options there. Carson Shire on the outside has been terrific all spring and fall. Now he needs to translate that to the field. And in the back end, Xavier Wampa, they've moved him to free safety. they've got really top-notch physical players in the back end. Of course, Phil Parker is a defensive secondary coach, so he's always going to be loaded up back there. So I think it's a really good defense again. But when they get into the meat and the teeth of the Big Ten championship run, and really Iowa State is a quality program, we'll know a lot more about the Iowa defense coming up this weekend. And here's a caveat, and I've always tied the two together, as most teams would if they're good. Iowa has been so good in special teams. They bring back an All-American kicker in Drew Stevens. They have a freshman All-American punter in Reese Dakin. And they got the return man of the year in college football, Caden Weegan, back for his senior year. So, but I want to point out the punter, Torrey Taylor before Reese Dakin. They're both Aussies. I mean, it seems like every team has an Australian punter. But they give that defense such great field position with which to work, typically inside the 20-yard line at the other end of the field. So that plays right into the teeth of that Iowa defense.
Well, Gary, before we ask you about the keys to this one for an Iowa win, Kirk Ferentz, the veteran, he's the dean of all coaches in college football right now. A big event for him if he keeps track of such things. He's now tied with Woody Hayes with 205 wins at Iowa. That ties him for the most Big Ten wins at a school in the history of the conference, which is really saying something. So what's your take on this? If he wins it, the record's all his, and we got to assume he's going to get it eventually.
Well, he will get it eventually, and boy, it'd be great if he got it this weekend against, outside of the Big Ten rivalries, the trophy games, if he got it against the in-state brethren, the Iowa State Cyclones. I've always thought this rivalry is unique. Rarely can you find two Power 5 conference teams from different leagues that play against each other from within the state's borders. You have Michigan State, you have USC, UCLA, but they're in the same league. And this is Big 12 versus Big 10. So there's a lot of pride here, Will, on the line. And I can guarantee you, Coach Ferentz pretty well. He's the last guy that wants to talk about any individual plaudits or records. It'll be acknowledged, he says, in time. He said, I owe it all to the players and to my staff. And, he talks about Hayden Fry a lot. Hayden Fry brought him in, took a chance on him. Hayden Fry didn't have a clue who Kirk Ferentz was, but a friend of Hayden's suggested that he interview him, and he did, and hired him as a young offensive line coach in 1981. So even though he's from Pittsburgh, his heart and soul is in Iowa. And, he's a very emotional guy. And that precludes any talk before the game. If he gets it after the game, they'll present him the ball, and he'll shed a few tears, and they'll sing the Iowa fight song. And then Kirk wants to move on. He wants to move on to next week in UMass, and that's who he is. I mean, he's the most unassuming guy that I've ever been around for a guy of his stature. But when you think about what he's done, first off, as you guys know, nobody sticks around for this will be his 26th year, a real rarity in college football these days, through all the changes and all the hassles of what is now facing our institutions. But good for the kids. I mean, NIL, I've got nothing against NIL. They just need to get some structure around it. But to think that he's got more wins than, the top 5 is, if I'm going from memory here and correct, Hayden Fry, Bo Schembechler, Amos Alonzo Stagg, Joe Paterno, and Woody Hayes. And you put those names up in bright lights anywhere, and to think that Kirk Ferentz now is not only up there with them, but ahead of them all, it really says something about the quality of the guy and the quality of the coach.
Well, this has been an odd series, Gary. Iowa has won 6 straight at Iowa State. The road team in this series has won the last 5 straight. So that's kind of odd. And so what do you got to do in Ames to change that trend and bring back the trophy?
Well, typically, to your point, and those numbers, it comes down to a turnover or a big special teams play. And both those have been so prominent in this series. I mean, last year, Iowa State kicks a 54-yard field goal. Freshman kicker boots one from 54 as time expires to beat Iowa 20-19. And just to illustrate Iowa's issues on offense, for the last couple of years, the Hawks had 2 first and goals at the 1-yard line earlier in the game and got 3 points out of those 2 first and goals. So, I mean, you can blame a lot of things. You got beat by a field goal. Well, if you score 1 touchdown on one of those drives, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. So this game is so tightly played. I think the players are wound up. There's 80. I think I counted 85 to 87 players from the state of Iowa on these rosters, and it's split about evenly. So it's a tremendous pride. The state grinds to a halt. Those farmers who wouldn't know a football from a hockey puck will be tuned into the radio or watching on TV. I mean, that's the way it is. In Iowa, we don't have a professional sports team, so everything revolves around Iowa and Iowa State, and especially when they're playing football and basketball. It's a knockdown dragout. But I think the Hawks have get back to Phil Parker's defense. They were plus 12 in turnovers a year ago, and they've been so consistently good at taking the ball away. And I'm just going to wager verbally, of course, that this game's going to turn on a turnover, and that'll be a game decider. That and you got great kickers, so it's and Gronowski needs to step up now. He's had a week under his belt as a Hawkeye quarterback. I look for Mark to play much better this week, and he's got to, because Rocco Beck, he's going to take his shots downfield. He's going to get his yards. He's going to get his points, but Gronowski needs to counter that.
Well, Gary, in your time at Iowa, you've got to broadcast some great moments. Good luck with this one, because this is history in the making, and it'd be fun to be a part of it.
It'll be crazy. It always is, whether you're in Ames or Iowa City will. But hopefully the Big Ten can shine through with the Hawkeyes this weekend.
Well, good luck, partner.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Gary Dolphin, the longtime voice of the Iowa Hawkeyes, as they get set to try to win an interstate game at Iowa State and also make some Big Ten football history. When we come back with more of the Sports Life, our parting shots in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little, but thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. That's 800-298-9093.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope. Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player.
No matter the challenges I face every day in the NFL, my mom is always there for me, despite her own struggles with muscular dystrophy. And MDA is there for my mom. At their 150 care centers across the U.S., MDA is the leading organization in research and care for kids and adults with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related neuromuscular diseases. Join me and learn more at helpmda.org today. Thank you.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. And we have now worked our way to our parting shots. Good show, though, we've had. A little talk about the big games coming up this weekend and a nice overview by Bill Benner of the Sporting News, where he thinks the Big Ten is stacking up after 1 week of play. So, having said that, what do you got, Dalton?
If you missed any of that, or you just want to hear it again to study up for some of these big games this weekend, make sure you give us a follow at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X. Our name again is at Sports Life Now. We'll have all that posted for you. But for my parting shot, look, you and I have made a lot of discussion and conversation around the idea of Ohio State in Texas. In week 1, to kick off the season, you have number 1 versus number 3. It's something that we clamored and said it's good for the health of the sport, it's good for fans, and that's being shown by 16.6 million people tuning in and watching that football game of Ohio State and Texas. And so the big thing to me, because that is the biggest week 1 college football game ever in terms of TV ratings, we've got to continue to find ways to incentivize these types of matchups, Will, because you've identified and mentioned throughout the last couple of weeks, we don't get too many of these anymore in the non-conference. To have a game like that, and Texas, who falls short going to the reigning national champion's house and dropping by a score, they drop in the polls to number 7 this past week. I think between AP voters and between the college football playoff, we have got to find ways to not punish teams when they're doing that, because it's very clearly something fans want, as they showed up in 16.6 million of them. And like we said, it's just good for the game. So we got to find more ways to incentivize these big matchups.
If we did a video of this show, how many did we get? Did we get 16 mil watching?
I would imagine at least, right? That's the basement. Yeah.
Well, my parting shot goes to a salute to George Raveling, Hall of Fame basketball coach who passed away at the age of 88. And it's interesting when you look at Coach Raveling's career. He had stops at Iowa, short stop, but he was pretty good there. USC, Washington State, won some games. But was he a major winning coach like Mike Krzyzewski? No. Did he ever win a national championship like John Wooden? No. So, how does a fellow who is just a little bit over 500 basketball coach wind up in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame and the College Basketball Hall of Fame? Well, that's an easy one. His contribution to the game wasn't how many games he won or lost. His contribution was he was old school when it came to how he operated. His number one goal was to do things that were good for the sport of basketball. And he loved the sport of basketball, and that's what he did. He mentored a lot of people and helped their careers. And he just loved people who love basketball. And, of course, he was a guy that helped Michael Jordan decide to go with Nike. That was a big deal way back then in the 80s. But at the end of the day, what made him a Hall of Famer, what makes him great, what makes him a loss to college basketball was him. He was one of the reasons it is such a great game and a great sport. And with that, that's a wrap for our show for this week. And as always, we appreciate everybody joining us. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler, and our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.